no crick. Yeah. Welcome to the space where knowledge meets the action. Welcome to the Empowerment Show, where we break down the barriers, helping you grow. Financial literacy, speaking truth to the power. Real conversation, changing lives by the hour. We inspire to change, here we challenge the status quo. Sharing tools for building wealth, watching your seeds grow. Empower you to take control of your future. No more living in the past, we're the authors of the suture. Get ready, get set, let the movement begin. Because empowerment starts now, let the light in.
All right. Good evening. It's somewhere in that 6 o'clock area. My name is Kendall Stevenson, and I am a co-host. I'm one of the hosts here on Politricks. Welcome to Politricks, and thank you guys for tuning in. I'm also here with my brother Yates, as usual. He's the answer man. He's the man with the plan, and he always got an answer. So let me bring him on the stage. Boom. Hey, how you doing, brother? Hotep,
I'm doing
Hotep.
well. Okay.
And this evening we're very fortunate. We have a young man with us. His name is Carlos CUBAS. Did I pronounce that right? CUBAS? Us. Carlos CUBAS. And Carlos CUBAS has been around. He's been around, okay? He's been around the block. He's been around the corner. He's been around the world. Okay, the brother got a lot to say about a lot. He's been involved in a lot of different things. Right now, he's involved with the Democratic Party of Monroe County. He helps out with Tara Probst. He's a state representative, and he does a little this, a little that, and mostly he counsels her. So, and believe me, the brother, he's old enough to counsel us and let us know what's going on. The situation with the things that are going on right now in the United States, as far as Trump is concerned, and the different nonsense that we're going through. We've been down this road before. And I think Carlos could probably answer that a little better. What do you think about the times right now, Mr. CUBAS?
Well, as you said, they are unusual times. You're going to get a little bit of feedback because I'm using two devices.
I got you, brother. You're good.
Okay. So because as you indicated, I've been around the block a few times. I was fortunate enough to participate in the civil rights movement when it was active in this country. And so I understand now and can see through the lens of that experience what is resurfacing in the United States. And now today, suddenly racism and hatred and a redefinition of what American society aspires to be has occurred. So those of us who experienced the culture of the hood and the cross and the rope understand that there's a message being sent out to segments of the American population who are unsure and frightened by what they see around them because they see a level of change that perhaps they didn't expect. And so now we're experiencing that. And unfortunately, we're experiencing on a global level.
Let me ask you a question. So you were around pre-segregation. When you were a little boy, we were still segregated, right? So you're pre-integration. I always had the question, do you think that segregate or integration was the best thing for us? Because from what I can tell, just my personal opinion, it's not that I'm saying that we should be segregated, even though it seems that we still are kind of segregated. I mean, black people live here, white people live there. But from my point of view, integration didn't really bring us anything. It took more from us than gave us anything. Like we lost out on a lot of black educators. So our kids were forced to go to schools to receive an inadequate education in the places that they didn't want to be. We didn't want to be there to begin with, and they didn't want us to be there. So we ended up receiving an inadequate education when we were receiving a much better one. We were circulating money throughout our own communities, so our communities were thriving. Not that I'm saying that separation is good, but I don't know if you're going to be separate and equal, which means we're going to be given the same resources as everyone else. I don't know if I have a problem with that. What do you feel?
Well, I think part of what you're implying is correct, that did integration give us the advantages we expected it would? And I don't know that really happened. So, those of us who were involved in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, we understood that the end result, what we were looking for, was not for them to give us anything. And when I say them, I mean the powerful elites in this country. What we were looking for, and what I believe we gained for a period of time, was opportunity. We wanted a chance to go into any area in American life and be given an equal opportunity. So if you look at the end of the civil rights era with the passage of that bill in 1964, one of the first things that happened was you had the creation of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And for the first time, there was a federal law that said discrimination of any kind based on race or any superficial difference, gender, was illegal. So the way that works out in everyday life, I'll give you an example. Right now in Monroe County, there are approximately 166,000 people. Of those 166,000 people, 125,000 approximately are African American, and 19,000 in the county right now are Latino. But if you look at elected officials in this county, does it reflect those numbers?
No, it does not.
No, it does not. Now,
not even the 13%.
Right. Now look at our schools. Right? Overwhelmingly, the East Stroudsburg School District and the Stroudsburg School District is comprised of black and brown students. The last figure I heard was 51% of the students in those school districts are black or brown. How many black or brown teachers do we have in the school system?
I really don't know. I could probably,
let me tell you right now.
I haven't seen any.
Right now, you can count them on one hand.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Yates, because Mr. Yates is involved with the school system. He's there every day. Do you see the same thing? Is that the majority of the teachers are non-African or not brown or black? Are they all Caucasian or white? Is that what you're saying? I think that's what he's saying.
So when I was in the Pocono Mountain School District, I think I encountered 4 teachers of color. I'm currently in the Scranton School District, and I've been in 2 schools in Scranton. In one school that has an enrollment of about close to 900 students, there's 1 full-time black teacher. In the current elementary school where I am right now, there are no black teachers. There's one teacher that is of Hispanic descent, but it is just her. at that particular school.
So here it is. How are we going to receive some sort of adequate education? I don't expect these people that are not of my descent to actually teach about people that look like me. I don't see them putting us in the forefront or making us even a priority to teach us about ourselves, at least the true meaning of ourselves, not just slavery. You know?
Well, now you're getting into the thick of it, right? So this starts at the federal level. So when you have an administration that actively begins to dismantle the educational system, and then at the local level, you have active groups of people trying to define the curriculum that is taught in the schools. And then you go back to the federal government and you see they want to cut aid to certain colleges. So now you know that a friend of mine who's a professor in New York City, when he says the culture of the hood and the cross is alive and experiencing a renaissance, he's absolutely correct. Now, we have to ask ourselves, why is that happening? And you have to, and then you have to widen that question and ask yourself, why is there now such an enforcement of immigration policies which obviously target Black and brown communities?
Now, my question is this: what are they afraid of? Why are they so afraid of us achieving and moving forward? It just seems that, like, I mean, they pretty much, if you want to say, they own practically everything. They have control over everything. So why do they want to exclude us so much? They want to exclude us from politics. They want to exclude us from education. They don't want people to know about us. They don't want us to know about ourselves. But why is that? And how can we combat that?
Because they fear the loss of control. So remember, at the end of the day, we have to look at a few things. You know that I start a lot of my talks by saying, in America today, 10% of the households control 67% of the country's wealth. 90% of the households control only 33% of the wealth. So you have to realize immediately that economic control is vital to keeping a certain segment of the population alive and well. Because when you look at the wealth of this country and you look at those households, they are overwhelmingly white. Right? Now, am I saying that there are no Black and brown millionaires? Absolutely not. But again, you have to look at the question of fear, right? There is a community in this country that fears that it will be obliterated. In the 60s, there was a man, an economist, who wrote about the browning of America. So let's look at that phrase itself. What does that mean? That means that the white population is decreasing and the Black and brown communities are increasing. So if you are a white supremacist, that is going to feed your fear, right? And so you are going to do everything you can to abate that trend. Where do we see the trend? We see it in birth rates, right? Compare the birth rates between white women, brown women, and Black women. And you will discover that brown women are bearing 1.9 children per birth, right? You look at white women, it's down to 1.7, maybe 1.6. So if you
So they're
again,
having less babies.
exactly. Now, if you look into the brown communities, the most prodigious uh, women who are giving birth right now among all the nationalities, because you know Latinos separate by nationality, are Mexican women. Mexican women have 3.1 babies per family.
Hmm.
So now look at the immigration issue, and you tell me why all of a sudden immigration is the number one issue.
To get rid of to get rid of the black and brown people, so
Exactly.
this way they can have more black kids in there. Hey,
Now,
Yates,
now,
what do you think about that? I just want to ask you. You know, he's here, and he has a lot of answers to a lot of things, and I love to hear what he has to say, brother. Please.
So let me just make 2 points. There is a book written by Pat Roberts, who was a Republican pundit. He wrote a book called The Death of the West. And he talked about that particular trend that Carlos talked about, the shifting demographic, how Americans, or should I say, Caucasian people, would be a minority in this country as well as in Europe. And he wrote this book probably the early 80s, and they wanted to do something to reverse that trend. And they've been trying for years. Now, let me go back to, we started talking about the civil rights era. So I want to make a point in regard to the civil rights era. If you want to know where we are today, and I'm talking about Black people, brown people, poor people, all you have to do is look at the evolution of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In 1963, Dr. King gave the speech that everyone is familiar with, the I Have a Dream speech. And in that speech, Dr. King said that he had a dream that one day, Black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles would sit down at the table of brotherhood. Are we any closer to that? Well,
no.
years
No,
later,
we're not any closer to that, brother. We're not.
well,
Not
years
at all.
later, the same Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said that America wrote a check and it came back insufficient funds. So Dr. King, who was full of optimism in 1963, years later realized that America was not about to change fundamentally, that America stayed the same, that no matter how he tried to bring about integration, it was not going to work. Because America, their racism or hatred is deeply rooted. It is as rooted in this country as is apple pie, Chevrolet, or war.
Well, didn't he say? I think around maybe 1965, like just prior to his death, I believe he said he didn't want to join a burning house or something to that effect.
He
That
said,
America was a burning house and it wouldn't
he
do us
said,
any good to join.
fear. What he actually said was, I fear I'm integrating my people into a burning house. So
There
that
you
is
go.
my opinion about the evolution of Dr. King. So this man that was full of optimism, right, that said, after the signing of the Civil Rights Act of 64 and the Voting Rights Act of 65, Dr. King believed that there was real progress, that there was real hope for America. Well, by 1966, 67, as America was widening the war in Southeast Asia, Dr. King began to see things, or to see this country for what it was. And Dr. King began to shift the focus, not so much completely away from civil rights, but he made it a global struggle when he talked about the struggle of people in Southeast Asia, the people in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia that were being bombed. More bombs dropped in Vietnam than were dropped in all of World War II. So, Dr. King,
brother. This is what gets me about the powers that be. So when Malcolm X decided, as long as he was out protesting, I hate white people, I hate white people, it kind of really didn't bother him, right? Right as soon as he got to where he says, you know what? After he took the trip to Mecca, he came back, he saw that Muslims and they came in all flavors, just like African. We come in all flavors. Then when he started to fight for everybody's right, when he wanted to go down to the UN, he was fighting for everyone's right, right? He gets assassinated. Martin Luther King, he's fighting for everyone's right, not just long as he was fighting for black people. Yeah, they scream, shout, and all. But as soon as he started to fight for everybody's right, that's when he was assassinated. What Huey P. Newton, the same with Huey P. Newton. If you remember, he said, I want to fight for everybody's rights. I want us all to come together. So it seems to be, to me, that what they're afraid of, not just the browning of America, but the unifying of Americans. Because if we unify, we come together, it's not a whole lot they can actually do. It kind of diminishes their power. Right on?
Well, you know what?
Hold on. Mr. Sir, go ahead, sir.
I just want to jump in because you guys have hit the nail on the head. So you mentioned Martin Luther King Jr., you mentioned Malcolm X, and I want to add Robert Kennedy to that list. And you're absolutely right. The minute these three men backed into the conversation about let us unite all poor people, let us work for the rights of all of those that are disenfranchised.
And that includes the indigenous as well.
Exactly.
That also includes the indigenous people because for some reason they feel as though they've been left out, and that's not true. We're talking about all Americans, all people of color or non-color. We're talking about all people.
And
all of us that we don't have billions of dollars in our pockets. That's what we're talking about. So that includes the Native Americans as well. I really don't like to use that term. I prefer indigenous.
Yes, but now go back to what I start every talk with. 10% of the households in the country control 67% of the wealth. So if you begin to understand that there were elements in the country, and the other brother spoke about it already. He says that there's a deeply rooted form of discrimination that is part of the American psyche. There's a book called Iron Cages by a man named Ronald Takaki. And he writes extensively in that book about the founding fathers and how when they wrote the Constitution, there are implications in the writing of the Constitution which seek to enshrine the rights of white males who at the time had to be landowners to be able to vote and therefore control the country.
All right. And on that note, we got to take a little quick break and we'll be back in about 30 seconds or so. I feel like I should be howling or something. Okay, right on. So that was the Wolfpack Apparels. I guess you saw where you can reach them at. I think that's wolfpackapparel.com or wolfpack.com. But thank you for your sponsorship. All right, we're back now, and we got a whole lot of things to say. So here we go. We're going to try to unpack it all. Mr. Cubanist, if you can hear me, you have to turn your microphone on so we can hear you because your microphone is still on mute. Ron, I want to come back to you because I know you had something to say at the end. I was saying about the indigenous people and sometimes how they feel that they're not included in these situations. Well, when they talk about black and brown, of course you're included. So just wanted to let the brother know that of course you are included. And also want to let him know that black people have been here pretty much since the beginning of time. If you want to go back to it, they have some books and whatnot that talk about the Africans coming to this country long before the conquistadors or the Europeans. So just to know, we've been in the same boat. We've been here together for a very long time. Indigenous people, black people, brown people. We've been here, living here together for a very long time. All right, brother.
So what I wanted to say was you talked about this fear. What is it they're afraid of? Well, the first director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, he sent out a memo to all of the FBI field officers. And he said that we must prevent the rise of a black messiah at all costs that can electrify and unify the masses. So this was a concerted effort on the part of the federal government to disrupt movements that they called the counterculture movements. And these movements, we think about the Black Panthers, but it wasn't just the Black Panthers for self-defense. It was the Weathermen. It was the underground movement. It was the Puerto Rican liberation movement. There were several that came together and recognized that we all had a common enemy, a common struggle. And because of that, the government used every tactic known, to disrupt the unity and the cohesion between these groups. Since that time, we have not been able to find our way back. The government has ensured that we stay separate. So when you talk about segregation, right? We've always been segregated in this country. Now, the segregation we face is more economic than based on skin color.
Oh,
so
you just did it, Carlo. I'm sorry. All right. Continue, Ron. Yeah, you're good.
So what we have is economic segregation, and also what we have is a class struggle. And the class struggle has been going on, since since the first slave ship docked in this country. People don't recognize it because they tell you it's about skin color and not about class. So as I said, I'm at Scranton School District, and I'm at a very small elementary school. Well, I was talking to the principal about a week or so ago, and she was saying about how difficult it was from the administration, the local school board, and the school administrators to get services to these children. These children need counseling. These children need more teachers. I mean, at this school, it's so small, the teachers and the students are using the same bathroom. So
But you got to remember something. Like Carlos said, it starts from the top down. So right now we're in an administration, or we're under this regime, if you want to call it, where he wants to take all your money away. He's dismantling the education system from the inside out. So it's kind of like, I guess it's imploding instead of exploding. It's imploding by not funding it.
Well, it's not so much the Trump administration. It is the local administration that is shifting the funds to the school on one side of town and not to the schools on this particular side of town. So what I said to her was, have you ever heard of separate but equal? And she said, yes. I said, well, you're living it. See, now you understand the disparity that existed between black and white schools during that time prior to this landmark piece of legislation. But now it is happening in this country, and it's not about your skin color. It is about economics. It is about power being concentrated on one side of town while there's little representation on the other side. So all of the money is flowing in one direction. So you have new schools being built. You have schools being refurbished, new equipment. In some schools, they can barely get toilet paper.
See, now this is what I'm saying, is that as long as we can stick together, then we can put the right people in office that will make these decisions. That's why politics is so important. I know a lot of people say I'm not going to do politics, but believe me, politics is going to do you, because politics determines where your resources is going to go. Like you're saying, you got money going to one school, but it should be going. In other words, it should be $100,000, $50,000 go to you, and $50,000 go to you. But it's not being distributed that way. It's more like a 70-30, and the 30 is going to the public schools, and the rest of the money seems to be going to charter schools, or at least developing schools in neighborhoods that are affluent. What do you got to say, Mr. C? Carlos, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm still.
We were waiting for your comment.
Audio problems, but.
Well, what we were saying is that about the resources, where the money is being allocated for the different schools, especially like around here. He was talking about Scranton, and then we're talking about Pocono, just within the Monroe County area, how money is being allocated to certain schools, but not allocated to all the schools. It's not evenly divided. The resources are not being evenly divided. That's what we're discussing.
You're right. And so what happens when the funds come out of Harrisburg, our representatives, both Maureen Madden and Tara Probst, have done an excellent job of bringing home the bacon. However, within the different school districts and the county itself, there's always that shift. And charter schools have been very effective in getting their hands into the bucket. And remember, charter schools have designed a whole approach to convince parents that they can do a better job of educating their children than the public school system. So again, this speaks to the issue of economics, because when you send your child to a charter school, you end up paying more money, right? So we have to begin to define issues for our different communities in a way that they can understand and use their influence at the school board level by participating in their individual school boards to make sure that the funds are allocated properly. But I want to bring something else.
That's why we got to put certain people in office. This is where voting comes in. I mean, the only way it's going to happen is we get the right people that we need in office, people that actually give a damn about us. I mean, be he Republican or Democrat, because like I always said, if they're in that seat, they're supposed to be there for all of the people, not some of the people. Exactly. Especially when it comes to these large corporations that put money in their pocket. It's got to be about all of the people. You got to help all of the people. It doesn't matter what your party is. But unfortunately, again, in this climate, it seems to be so. Like right here, we got, what's his name? Jack Reeder. He's running again. How long has he been in that position? Like 12 years?
Yes.
12 years he's been there. And for me, I happen to live in that district, and I'm a little pissed off because I keep looking at my property tax going up. You understand? And every little complaint that I have to them, they don't say anything about it. They don't do anything anyway.
I'd just like to say something as it relates to Jack Reeder. I live around the corner from Jack Reeder. I see Jack Reeder quite often. I invited Jack Reeder onto my previous show. And Jack Rader told me, I don't do podcasts, I don't do radio shows. Jack Rader, and I live around the corner from him, corresponds with us by mailers. I mean, if there's something going on, when you ran the first time, you knocked on doors looking for support. And now you're the invisible man. So,
well, I guess he figured it out in this area, the 176. These are pretty much his constituents, if you want to say. I mean, I don't want to think they bad about the 176, but it's predominantly red. And the attitude of the people here, you know, they're very much into that. I love Trump. Very much Trumpers, just, and I still don't understand why. I mean, look, I guess it's like LBJ. He said if you can take the poorest person and make him believe that he's better than any person, give him somebody to look down upon, you can pick his pocket, take every dime he got, and that seems to be what's occurring now. It's like, you know, Trump and the whole administration, they lie so much. And I don't mean just Trump. I mean, you're going down to Pam Bondi. You're talking about Kristi Noem. I'm still asking where the $143 million went that Kristi Noem has just disappeared. Poof. They gave her another job. She's not DHS anymore. Now she's in charge of some Latin American stuff. So they just gave her another job. But what about the $143 million? We just forget about that. You know, we're living in an administration where, yeah, Trump, he doesn't take a salary, but he's made over $4 trillion since he's been in that seat.
Yeah.
And this is, you got to remember, a lot of this is all taxpayers' money, man. The war that we're spending this is us paying the money. The Jews, the trillions of dollars that we send to Israel every year. And remember, I told you, they don't pay to go to the hospital because they have what? Universal health care. We don't have that. They don't have to worry about an education system because they don't have to pay to go. So is it our money that's paying for them and we're being stuck like we're fools? Because it kind of seems like if we the American people are fools and we're just being taken along for a ride. The rich people are getting richer. They're having this big war basically over oil. Okay, so who wins? Because we don't win. We get killed, we get shot, we get bombed, we get blown up. Those people that own the oil companies, they get richer. The oil prices go up, right? Where's that money going? It's not going back to us. It's going to them in their pockets. So when it's all said and done, they're making billions and billions. They're making generational wealth at our expense.
But I think part of what you said when you began to speak alludes to the voter, right? To the population. So here's another interesting statistic. The United States likes to brag that it has a 71% literacy rate. What they don't brag about is that of the 71% literacy, 63% of those people read and comprehend at a 6th grade level. So how you asked that question, right? And so did Brother Yates. You know, I mean, how much can we endure? Why is the average American voter so willing to accept the show that's going on in Washington? And again,
you know, Brother and Yates, we spoke about this once before.
To read and to comprehend what's being done to them.
Right. Well, Brother Yates and I, we spoke about this before, and I think we came to the conclusion is that people are willing to give up their freedoms for security. That they feel secure. He keeps telling people you're not safe. They're coming. They're gonna eat your cats and dogs. They're coming to rape you. They're coming in. They're bad people. They're drug dealers, and constantly putting his fear out. And then at the end, he says, "I can fix it," because he loves the poorly educated. So he's not looking for people to vote that think with a conscious mind. They think emotionally. They're not thinking with their head. And he calls them stupid. He outright says you're dumb and stupid because he loves the poorly educated. They vote for him. He's in office. And now we're in this shit show that we're in. Because I don't think we would have been here if Kamala Harris became president. I don't think we'd be having these jails that we got. I don't think we'd be involved in the war that we got. I don't think we would be talking about people not receiving money. Poor people. Unhoused people. She wanted to take care of all of that. People didn't want to vote for her. No.
You know what? When we talk about politics, right, we have to understand something. when you talk about politics, in this country, you're talking about two groups that are supposed to oppose one another, Democrats and Republicans. But let's be realistic. These people work together. They work together, of course, behind the scenes. Like they'll tell us, they'll be on C-SPAN arguing back and forth about a particular bill. But behind, when the cameras are off, these people are working together to make deals that benefit both parties. Now, let's think for a second. When Donald Trump lost the election, and he did lose the election in 2020, well, the fact of the matter is, there were 4 years when the Democrats were in power, when they had the ability to go after Donald Trump and put him in jail. They waited, 2-3 years before an indictment came down? You know, if you take somebody like, I don't know, the young man that they said shot the CEO, they hunted him down in 24 hours.
Luigi.
Luigi Mangione. Already, as soon as he went to trial, right? Or before, not he hasn't gone to trial yet, but as soon as he went to court, they were able to get an indictment. And they do this all the time. In this country, you can indict a ham sandwich. But 3 years they waited for Trump. Why? Do you really think the Democrats were that dumb that they would allow him?
We've been down this road before. If you remember, we've been down this road before. There are no true enemies in politics, Republican or Democrat. There are no true. The only thing that matters is what their interests are at the time. As long as they have the same interest, they're good to go. They're buddies. It's only when they conflict with each other when it's interest. Other than that, they are not no enemies, and there are not many true friends. So that Republican or Republican, Democrat, all that's nonsense. They can throw that right out the window.
We don't need to talk in terms of Democrat and Republican because both of them have colluded. Because if you look at the conditions in this country's $39 trillion in debt. And right now, the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth, is asking for an additional $200 billion of taxpayer money to fight a war that the American people do not want, nor can we afford at this point, right? So the Republicans and the Democrats, one thing they've always agreed upon is war. Another thing they've always agreed upon is the defense and support of Israel. Nearly everyone in Congress takes money from AIPAC. There may be a handful of people that do not take money from the Israeli lobby. So you want to say we're so different, we're so ideologically opposed, but they're taking money from the same exact people. If you look at the Republican donors, you look at the Democratic donors, they're the same people. Why? Because they know that these are the people that can go to a $25,000 a plate dinner to eat some rubbery chicken. And then these are the people that represent the corporations. The corporations right now that are making money off the war with the oil prices spiking. The other corporations, the banking industry that is just waiting for the war to end so they can give these high interest loans to Iran to rebuild their cities and towns. So what we're doing is,
you know what Trump will probably do? He wants to go over there and build hotels like they want to do in the Gaza Strip. You know, they want to make hotels and casinos. They want to make the Gaza Strip the rich man's playland, like they're trying to do to Cuba. That's what they want to. They want to bring back Havana. Remember back in the day, 1940s, and Havana was the place to be. Go get you a Cuban cigar, and then all of a sudden Castro took over, and they were no good anymore. Okay, they were terrorists. They were horrible people. So he wants to go back into Cuba too and take that over. You know,
yeah,
go figure.
They call Cuba the Paris of the Caribbean, right? So
yeah, well, you know, Cuba was the place back in the 40s and the 50s. You know, that was the place, man. Let me see. You were born in 1938.
No, I was born in 1947.
There you go, 1947. Now, what happened? That was a good year, 1947. That was the end of the World
The
War II,
World
wasn't it?
War, yeah,
There you go.
exactly. So
Just
I'm
before Israel came into play. Yeah,
I'm
just
the
before the
last of the
UN
Cougars.
shipped them all off to Israel. Mm, mm, mm. All
Exactly.
right, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure speaking to you
Oh
guys.
my God.
You got any last word, Mister Carlos? Because I like to bring you back on again, at least so we can have a second show.
Absolutely. I would
We
love
got
to
very
be
much into the school system this time round, and I like to get a little bit more into politics, especially local politics and what's going on. You got a couple of politicians that are up for grabs. We had one on the show, Charles Kepper,
Kepler.
and we happen to really, really like that young man. So
Yes.
we don't really choose or pick sides. We don't go Republican or Democrat. We kind of go by the person. Like we all love Tara Probst because she's an honest person. We like Maureen because she's a fighter. They call her Mad Dog Maureen, so you don't mess with her. But this guy Charles Kepler, yeah, he's a good guy. We really like what he had to say. Hopefully he won't just go for the commissioner's position. That he what is it? What he's going for? County committee, well,
Uh,
or
right.
state committee, and
He's running
I'm
for
hoping
state
he
committee.
may want to look to go into Congress or something like that because he could use a voice like that. He's
Oh,
young man. He's got a lot to say, and we do need to have
absolutely.
a little more younger people involved in politics.
A hundred
You know.
percent. And I would love to see more black and brown young people, right? Because we have an organization within MCDC called the Young Democrats. But even as we speak, they're trying to rebuild that organization. And it's been difficult to get our young folks, black and brown young folks, to open their mouth and step forward. I have had the pleasure of visiting ESU, and we have a woman who is part of MCDC. Her name is Louisa Domblowski, who does a special outreach to the students. But time and time again, the students we approach will say, "Well, I'm not really political." But guess what? Politics is everywhere. Okay, loan forgiveness for students, scholarships, free education eventually, right? There are countries in Europe where you could go to college and you don't have to pay a penny. So again, unfortunately, we are living in an era where the 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 racist mentality is resurfacing. And if we don't educate our people, my father used to say this all the time, you need to know where you've been to get where you're going. So if we don't alert them, if we don't share our experience with them, if we don't do the work that you and Brother Yates are doing right now by hosting programs like this and getting them to tune in and getting them to listen and to understand the danger that awaits them. I only have two grandchildren. Both of them live in India. My son married an Indian woman. They've been there since 2005. And my concern and what I want and what I became out of retirement for was to give them the same country my father gave to me. And I don't know if that's going to happen. So I have to rely
Well,
on
I'm gonna tell you,
people.
Carlos. I don't know if I want to give my kids the same country my father gave me because we came out of the Vietnam War and we weren't treated very well. When we came home, even to today's time, we still have a lot of difficulty as black and brown people in this country. That's why we even having this conversation. But I do agree with you that we do need to get the youth a little more engaged. And I think that would happen if the elders got a little more engaged. It seems to be this big separation between the elders and the youth. This is why we have a show here called Sharing Your Light. And I got a young man, his name is Chris Matthews, and he outreaches to a lot of young people.
Good.
He usually comes on Thursday about 6 o'clock. So that's our way of trying to reach out to the young people. But this is what we have to do. We have to be able to get engaged with the young people. Now, with all of the celebrities and these different people who feel that they want to get involved in politics, they're telling our youth, don't vote. They're telling our youth that voting is no good, that it doesn't mean anything. And the
Man,
youth believe them. They listen to the rappers and all these other people who have a lot to gain by voting in Trump because they're going to gain more money and taxes, right? So they have a lot to gain by voting for Trump. But these young people don't see that. They listen to these people. They say, hey, you know, don't vote because you don't know who you're going to vote for, or neither side is either good. And they'll tell you, well, they're not good and they're not good, so we're stuck in the middle and we don't even vote. But the funny thing is that the opposing side, they do vote. And that's how they get their people in office. So we have to vote. Voting is a system that's been around since you were a little boy, and the only time we got anywhere in this country. We're not going to go into a revolt. I don't see us bearing arms, because that's the only other way to really have the true freedom, right? That independence is you got to fight and take it. So I don't see us doing that. So the only way that we can do it is using the legislation, which means we have to vote. We have to put the people that we need, that we think are going to be there for us. This is why we got to go to the town hall meetings.
Right.
When is the last time we had a town hall meeting? And when we do have a town hall meeting, when's the last time we invited young people to come? I don't see any flyers out. I don't see anything on Facebook or anything. Hey, come on down. Come on and get some sandwiches and listen to what these people got to say.
Well, when I allude to my father's remark about giving us the same country, that's what I mean. That we have a country where we have free and open elections, and people can express themselves at the polling place. And we need to convince our young people that the system does work.
Well, as Mr. Yates would tell you, the system wasn't really designed for us, but we're going to try to make it work for us.
Exactly.
That's what man would say, because this system was not designed for us. Even the Constitution, they constantly bring the Constitution into play, and that actually wasn't designed for anybody that looked like you or I either. Okay, because the way that they, even in the Constitution, you can read the way that they express to us who we are, savages and all kinds of native people. They call them savages. Black people were still only 3/5 of a man. Did they change that yet, Yates? Or is that still part of the Constitution?
Read the book. Read the book, Iron Cages. Read the book, Iron Cages, because that gets into the way the Constitution was written.
Have you read that book yet, Yates?
I haven't, but I'll add that to my collection.
Okay,
we'll add that. We'll put that on the, for anybody that's tuning in, you can always check out our website. We do have a website. We have a spot on there where we have recommended reading, where we have plenty of books on there that people can tune in, they can read and learn about themselves and about finances and everything. So what we'll do is you can go to you got to use the word PAEmpowermentNetwork.com. PAEmpowermentNetwork.com. There we'll have a listing of books. So I'm sure I'll look that book up and I'll make sure to put that in the book listing. Okay, Mr. CUBAS?
Okay, and it's CUBAS.
I know it's cool. I don't know why I get Cubanis. You know where I get that from? You know Q? IQ?
CUBAS.
From IQ. Yeah. From the IQ Lounge, the cigar lounge. What's his name? Cubanis.
His name is CUBAS. His name is CUBAS.
Brother, I don't speak the Spanish language. I'm doing the best I can here.
Okay.
Anyway,
you're doing well.
I'm trying to show the brother some respect and give him the flowers by saying Mr. But I'm going to tell you what, Carlos, since we've known each other for a minute or two, I'm just going to call you Carlos and say thank you very much for coming on this show. And we truly appreciate you coming on. And hopefully you're going to come on again. What do you guys say to that? What do you say to that, Mr. Yates?
I'll say, yeah, let's have him come back. This is a good conversation. It's something that we need to continue on, and hopefully some young people are listening, right? People in general are listening, because all it takes is one. And, word of mouth is very, very powerful even today. Even with all the other means of communication, word of mouth is very powerful. So if we get enough people spread the word, right, we may be able to bring about some meaningful change.
Amen.
Well, I think we here at the Empowerment Network and on the Politricks show, I think we make a difference, because I walk around town and I hear that we make a difference. People say, hey, that was a good show last night. So I think we're trying our best to make a difference, to be a community service. All right. Here's your applause. And thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
And myself and Brother Yates, we're going to take it on out. Okay. Boom. All right, Brother Yates. We're going to say Ashe. We're going to do our. You know what I didn't do this trip round? I'm gonna do it right now. So, as always, we always look to be grateful for something. Now, I got to think about some things I need to be grateful for, and I shouldn't have to think too hard because every day that I wake up, I should always find something to be grateful for. Usually, I am so grateful that I take a breath of air. And sometimes in the morning, it is so sweet to take that breath of air because it's not promised to you. As they say, tomorrow's not promised to you. Waking up is not promised to you. So those are things that I'm grateful for. Family, friends, and the opportunity to get to talk to you guys. So we're going to say peace. As always, I'm out. And as Miss Shaquana would say, be yourself because everybody